Good morning, Unity Spiritual Center. My name is Reverend Dr. Gary, and I'm here with Reverend Dr. Jane, and we're here to welcome you today, where our purpose is transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. We begin our time together by grounding ourselves in our opening affirmation. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Say it with me, please. Together. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. And so if you have an exception to that principle,
you're in the right place.
Everybody's in the right and perfect place, because we're here to break through those exceptions and recognize the truth of who we are and what we've come here to be. All right, so let's talk about the news that everybody can use. So we had a milestone today. What happened today?
Yes, we had our first outdoor service. I keep calling it a concert, but Sean and Tawny's music was featured, so maybe we could say that. But we had our first outdoor service where everyone brought their lawn chairs and sat 6 feet apart and wearing masks. And we had about 20 people in our parking lot just listening to the service.
And we had some kids in the playground?
We had kids in the playground. It was delightful and lovely to see everybody, even though we were still distancing. It was joyful. I hope our neighbors enjoyed it. I don't know, but...
So we're going on vacation in a couple of weeks, and while we're gone, we're still going to be doing the outdoor services.
We are, yes. Reverend David McClure and Reverend Donna McClure will be leading it next week, and so that will still be happening. And then the following week, Amber McKenzie will be leading the services.
And they'll also be coming in and doing the live streaming as well.
Right, the live streaming will continue.
So I just also want to mention that we've talked last week about migrating to a different Zoom link in order to use the church's Zoom account. And right now we've been using my personal account. And so the link that we provided in the e-news that happened on Wednesday is actually not working very well. It actually sends things back to my Zoom account. So go ahead and click on the link if you're coming to the Zoom meet and greet afterwards, or click on the link that you've always clicked on. Either way, you'll arrive at our Zoom meet and greet today. But next Wednesday, we'll send out a different link. And because we'll be on vacation, it'll either work or it'll work. So just know that shift is in the offing. And once again, we'll remind everybody and look to the e-newsletter this week for the corrected URL for that. All right, that's the news that people can use. And so it's time to move into our meditation experience. And then that'll be followed by God You Are and Sean and Tony.
God, you are. I was thinking it was something else.
It might be something else. I could have forgotten what it is already.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Either way,
it'll be a surprise. Yeah.
All right, let's get our meditation going. All right. So as is our custom, let us take this time to really dive deeply into a felt experience of our oneness and our connection, to the greater experience of who we are as God's beloved children. And as we sink into this moment, let us first allow ourselves to be fully supported by the chair upon which we sit, or wherever we are. Just simply allow yourself to relax, to release, and to be completely held, so that there's no holding on your part within your body. And so just scan through and just check to see if there's any tightness. Lower your shoulders. Extend your head to straighten your spine. And as we make these small adjustments in this moment, let us begin to bring our awareness to our breath. And once again, we will begin our time with box breathing. Breathing in and holding and resting, releasing and then resting. for the same duration. So just follow my lead. And so breathe in, hold, release, rest. Breathe in, hold, release, rest. Breathe in, hold, release, and rest. Resting now in this moment, feeling connected, a part of a greater whole. So let's just imagine all the people in our spiritual community that right now in this moment are present with us in the field of infinite possibilities. And so as we imagine being together, feeling connected, a part of a greater whole, within a field of infinite possibilities, the field simply awaiting a coherent, energetic signal, vibration, frequency. And so let us attune now to that capacity to bring forth from this field anything that is necessary or good. And so we begin this process by aligning ourself, our felt, our feeling body with this presence of oneness. And so let us feel into this moment, beginning with feelings of gratitude and appreciation. Allowing images to arise in our mind's eye of people or circumstances that we appreciate and value. A life partner, a beloved friend, a cherished pet, a fond memory, a quiet place. Feeling into this awareness, allowing the feelings of appreciation and gratitude to rise up within our body-mind. Imagining a portal opening at our heart space. And in this opening, we enter into the field where anything is possible, where all things work together for good. And as we simply linger or saunter, if you prefer, in this awareness of our oneness with all of life, our connection to each other, and that sense that all things are working together for good, we can now open ourselves to the invisible, infinite, and eternal presence, the intelligence, the activity of spirit that is seeking to activate and bring forth through each one of us, through all aspects of life that are right now participating in partnership with the awakening of this sleep that our human family has been in. We recognize that we're a part of a movement, part of an activity, a divine intervention, pulling us into bearing witness beyond the appearances of uncertainty or chaos or unpredictability, and into the very heart, the certainty, the clarity, the light, that in God all things are working together for good. And we align with that innate activity by simply allowing ourselves to declare, "Here I am, Lord, use me." And in so saying, knowing that we are guided and gifted with what is needed to help bring forth into greater visibility and outer expression the world that can work for everyone. And so as we yearn and long and hunger in our heart of hearts for this possibility, and as we feel ourselves a part of the field of infinite possibilities, we allow ourselves to be used, which means that we use what we have to bring forth a greater expression of who and what we've come here to be, because that is God going on in us, through us, and as us. Breathe in and release. Breathe in and release. We release ourselves now into that greater activity of spirit that right now is bringing forth a greater good in all of our lives, and for this we are grateful. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. Oh Lord my God, you are my strength. You carry me on your wings. You are in me, you know my heart. My soul sings out to you. My soul sings out to you, my love. My My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you. My soul sings out to you, my love. My soul sings out to you.
Thank you, Sean and Tawny. And they are working on live streaming from their studio in the future. So watch for that. Listen for that. Live streaming through this.
I know, in this experience.
Right. Thank you for that. So unity is part of what is known as the New Thought movement. What is New Thought? Well, it's not new at all. New Thought is as new as Plato, but that's a whole other story. Suffice it to say that New Thought acknowledges there is one presence, one power, one life that is living itself through all beings, all of creation. And it teaches that each of us is an expression of that life, that one power. And as spiritual beings having a human experience, we have the power to transform our lives, our personal reality, through the thoughts and the beliefs that we think, by changing those thoughts and beliefs. And embedded in that whole idea is the understanding that the reason we can change our experience of life is because our world is mirroring back to us what is going on within us, or it's mirroring back to us of what we're believing. And the work becomes not trying to change the mirror, but to go within and to make those inner changes that can now create a different reflection. And so I've been thinking a lot about that lately, a lot about the mirror and how it works as I see things in our world that I'm not liking the reflection so much these days. And so part of my search has led me recently to rereading some of the history behind the forming of the various New Thought factions. And I studied this way back in ministerial school, and so 20 plus years ago. Many of the characters, the leaders, the teachers are familiar to me. But this time I paid much closer attention to their stories behind how they got there. And I noticed that several of them, for example, Mary Baker Eddy, Phineas P. Quimby, and I love his name. That wins the prize for my favorite New Thought name, is Phineas P. Quimby. And of course, our own Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity. They all came to New Thought through a major healing in their lives, healing of very serious conditions, like life-threatening illnesses that medical professionals at the time were unable to heal or to help them with. And so this ability to heal is a very big part of New Thought's philosophy and message. It's behind the Unity movement. And so as I thought about their various stories, I realized that when you're facing something that serious, when your back is against the wall, when you've had someone tell you there's nothing I can do for you, so get your affairs in order, or you're just going to have to learn to live with the pain, whatever that is, when those kind of things happen, then you can approach doing the work involved to change your life with a much different level of commitment. Myrtle Fillmore had that commitment. She spent 2 years loving her body back to wholeness, is the way I like to think of it. Loving her body back to wholeness. And she was every single night of that 2 years, she would spend hours blessing her body, apologizing to every cell for ever believing it was anything less than whole. But she was very motivated. She'd been given 6 months to live, and she had young children at home. But through this practice that she took on for 2 years, she was completely healed of tuberculosis. And all of that stemmed from one night hearing a phrase spoken at a New Thought lecture, someone named E.B. Weeks. And these are the words: I'm a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. Something about those words awakened something in her, that led her to her healing, brought her to this understanding of healing her body and through her mind. And as I read all of the various accounts of these New Thought leaders, I started to marvel at their similarities. Somehow I had just kind of glossed over that part of the history initially. This time I didn't. I've never faced a life-threatening illness, although I have played a major supportive role with loved ones who have, including, of course, my beloved husband, Gary, through his cancer diagnosis and healing 4 years ago. And if I'm being honest, my New Thought, change your thinking, change your life, got kicked to the curb at the time of his diagnosis. And it was replaced by fear, by worry, by a very, very deep sadness. And I wish I could tell you that my faith was so strong that I never once wavered in visualizing his healing, but I would be lying if I said that. However, something else happened when we got that diagnosis. We were told that nothing could cure this, it was incurable, but that there was an immune boosting drug that could help and was showing promise. The oncologist, frankly, did not hold out much hope. He never did throughout Gary's healing. But just that glimmer was enough for us. It was enough for us to change our belief system from one of, give up, there's nothing we can do, there's no hope, just get your affairs in order. We moved from that to, there is a possibility that we can heal this. There's a possibility. And so just getting that opening was enough for us to allow all the rest to heal that was involved in his healing. And that's not all that Gary did, was taking this immune boosting drug. He also turned to many different natural remedies. And within 3 months, the 30 tumors that he had been diagnosed with were gone. And here's a picture, if you haven't seen it before. The left side shows the tumors they found to begin with. And on the right, 3 months later with no sign of cancer. And the oncologist calls Gary his medical miracle patient. And so I thought about all of this as I was reading about the New Thought pioneers and how they really showed us the way. And basically, what I got was this: changing your beliefs matters. It matters. It matters greatly. And whether that happens through blessing your body every night until you get to the place of believing that those cells are perfect and healthy, or having a change of mind from there's no hope to I can see a way through this, or putting faith in natural remedies, whatever we do, the commonality is the change in belief. That's what it is. That's the precursor to transformation. It can't happen without it, and it has to start within. The placebo effect scientifically tells us this very thing. And I've read amazing accounts of people being totally healed when taking a placebo, which is just some sort of inert substance, like sugar pills, for instance, containing no medical healing qualities at all. And it was just the belief that it could work. I've also read of people having terrible side effects from a placebo. And the side effects correlated with whatever the substance was that they thought they were being administered. That's called a nocebo. It's startling how the mind affects the body. So what on earth does any of this have to do with my weird talk title, Inheritance Meets Horizon? Well, the term is something I recently read that appealed to me. But in a nutshell, I believe that this ability that we have to change our beliefs in order to heal is a superpower that we hold. We can think of it as our divine inheritance, as spiritual beings having a human experience. And when I look around at what's happening, in our world right now, in other words, what's on the horizon, it looks to me like our world is ailing. I mean, literally, an illness has gone around the planet, but beyond that, there are some real symptoms of an ailing world. Not only has there been a pandemic, physical illness, but a great deal of emotional and mental stress, racial injustice, corruption, violence, all being deeply exposed right now. I mean, we can't miss it. It's kind of in our face. Eckhart Tolle wrote that if you took humanity's history, the history of humanity, and you looked at it as a patient's mental health medical history, what would the diagnosis be? And he says this in a kind of a tongue-in-cheek way, but it's a kidding, not kidding thing. I mean, can you picture a mental health professional taking a look at humanity's mental health medical file and just kind of throwing up their hands? And so my question is this: is humanity's back against the wall? Is our current culture meeting its demise? Is there even hope for the patient? Well, yes, but I believe the world's ills are getting to the ICU stage, really. It's like transform or, what's going to happen? And so I'm looking at this in the same way that our founders, whoops, that went the wrong way. I'm looking at this in the same way that our founders may have looked at their own personal lives. And I'm feeling like maybe the time is now for us to cash in our divine inheritance and to use it for whatever is showing up on the horizon. Because here's the thing: when our divine inheritance meets the horizon, we can change the world. We truly can. And it comes from using our new thought principles to do collectively for the world what they have done for people on a personal level. Maybe it's time for us to do this, to stand up and make this happen. All of these individual healings that happened to our new thought leaders, they led to a worldwide movement. And maybe we start our worldwide movement now to work on changing our beliefs in order to bring about our culture's healing. Time to make a combined effort to the degree that Myrtle did. Healing tuberculosis was an impossibility at the time. There was no cure. She had it all her life, had been very sickly. As a child, was expected to have an early death. She changed her mind. I'm a child of God and I do not inherit sickness. We can change our minds about what's right and good for all on this planet. And whether we're talking about individual or planetary healing, the basic underlying principle is still the same. The world we see around us is actually mirroring what's within us. And if we don't like the reflection, the work becomes using it as valuable feedback and then going within to begin the healing work of changing what's being reflected. Now, nobody wants to remember that the world's mirroring what's within us right now. I sure don't. It's like what I'm seeing can't be about me, it's about that guy. He's the problem. It's so much easier to project my stuff onto someone else. I'm pretty masterful at doing that. But things will never heal if I don't change myself, if I continue to do that. And I will be the first to admit that although I know this, I teach this, I believe this, nonetheless, I have been a lazy New Thought practitioner. I've allowed my thinking to become condemning of others, who I view as the problem. I have projected my stuff onto the world. I've denied that I have anything to do with this problem. Well, nothing will change if I continue to do that. I mean, just imagine if all of the early leaders of the New Thought movement had decided it was just too much bother to heal themselves. I'm not going to spend 2 years loving myself to healing. I've got no time for that. Well, it's going to take time, and it's going to take all of us stepping up to do this work, no matter how long it takes. So the world mirrors what's within me. Does that mean that I have single-handedly caused all the unrest and violence I'm seeing mirrored in the world? Well, you can blame it on me if you want, but of course that's not true. But what it does mean is that I have a responsibility in my life to be in alignment, to live in alignment with the peace that I want to see in the world, with the compassion that I want to see in the world, with the equality that I want to see in the world. It's our divine inheritance to embody the change we desire. And I believe we're all here to do that, to be that change. And it entails the work of using the mirror to help me uncover what I have been believing and what I've been hiding from myself. You see, that's the first step, self-awareness. And it's like this scene from a Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon movie where he's telling her that her mirror is broken, and she replies she prefers it that way because it reflects how she's really feeling. And so it's about using the mirror as our feedback and making the unconscious conscious, becoming aware of what we are putting out there, uncovering the limiting beliefs that we often hide from ourselves. And this takes work, because sometimes we've created a fortress of beliefs that stand guard to protect us from painful memories of the past. But as we know, from the teachings of Father Richard Rohr, pain not transformed, is pain transmitted. Pain not transformed is pain transmitted. Transmitted in some way, whether it's as a projection onto somebody else and making them the villain, or taking it inside and making ourselves the enemy. So this fortress of belief needs to be dismantled. And until it is, we will continue with the egoic, shadow-driven behavior that has created the problem in the first place. But it can only be done with compassion. Compassion for each other, compassion for ourselves. And when we actually see this, when we become conscious of how we're showing up in the world as either the problem or the solution, when we uncover those formerly rejected or orphaned parts of ourselves that we've been projecting, and we welcome them back into our hearts, something magical happens. In the brilliant words of my favorite poet, David Whyte, he said, when we make a friend of what we previously could not face, what once haunted us now becomes an invisible parallel ally, a beckoning hand to our future. And guess what? That is our superpower. Seeing with kindness and compassion, embracing that part of ourselves that we've been projecting onto an unsuspecting world. And when I do that, it becomes an invisible ally. Feel the power of this. This is our divine inheritance in action. Because when we engage in this way, we begin to express our true wholeness. We come from the divine power within us. I read recently that the divine wants us to have our cake and eat it too, by experiencing lives as individuals with free will, as well as immersed in the oneness of interbeing, divine love, the reality of oneness. That's our work, is to find that connection and be it. James Dillett Freeman is Unity's famous poet who wrote the prayer for protection, as well as the prayer that was taken to the moon and left there by one of the astronauts so many years ago. And he wrote this as the opening verse of a prayerful poem. I said to the Master, how do I turn on the power of God? And that's a question, isn't it? How do I do it? And the Master said, how did you turn it off? You see, the power is within every one of us right now. There's no turning it off. It's divine potential that's at the center of our being. It's never left us, never abandoned us. It's as close as our very breath. Ernest Holmes tells us we're surrounded by an atmosphere of wholeness, the very presence of which has a power of healing. We are surrounded by it. We are enfolded in it. We are filled with it. There is no spot where God is not, regardless of what the mirror is telling us. And when I embrace my wholeness, even the parts I don't like to see, With self-compassion, my superpower becomes activated in my life. Potential becomes actualized. We are expressions of the infinite. All of us, we're inlets and outlets of the divine, and it's time for us to be the change that we have been seeking. Again from David White. The way we face the world alters the face we see in the world. That's truly the key to this. How we face the world alters what we see. So I want to invite all of us as New Thought practitioners to hear the call. The planet needs us to be just like those early pioneers in our movement who changed their minds, who discovered the power of belief, who transformed their lives with such startling results that it catapulted an entire movement into being. I love that unity is part of a movement, and I believe it's time for us to move, truly, to move from powerlessness, from hopelessness and fear and worry, to remembering our divine inheritance, to remembering who we are, to stop playing small, and to come together in a collective vision of healing and wholeness, to face what we've been keeping hidden from ourselves with kindness and compassion, embracing our true wholeness, and in so doing, gaining an invisible parallel ally in making the world a better place for all, not just for some, for all. Showing up as the spiritual beings that we truly are, and remembering that the power of God is alive in us right now. So let's commit to our own personal healing as well as planetary healing in the same manner that the early pioneers of New Thought did. They blazed a trail for us. Let's follow. So are you ready to try on some new beliefs? We want to start with asking. Ask yourself, are you ready? Are you willing to uncover and change your hidden limiting beliefs? If the answer is no, well then don't go on from here. But if it's yes, start treating the world as a giant mirror. And whenever you are triggered by something you're witnessing, that's the key, that triggering moment, ask yourself, what hidden belief might I have that is fueling this pain point, this reactivity? What is it? And how can I turn what's hidden within me into a powerful, invisible ally? But you have to do it with self-compassion. That's what Myrtle did. She loved her body back to wholeness. That's the work. And I believe we can love our culture back to wholeness. And I believe the New Thought movement can truly make a difference in our world through this power of love. I mean, we have a unity prayer on the moon. Surely we can use its power on earth. Really. So remember, when we take our inheritance and we use it to meet what's showing up, we can have our cake and eat it too. And so it is.
All right, cue applause track. All right. So let's take it to heart.
Let's take it to heart.
So you reminded me that one of the things that we commonly do when we're asleep is that our prayers try to get God to change the way the mirror works.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was reading recently. If you a mirror can't choose not to reflect. It can't look and say, "Oh God, I'm not going to reflect that." Go change that shirt. It has to reflect what's in front of it. And if we see something reflected that we don't like, that a shirt, I'm going to use that as an example, we don't think it's the mirror's fault. We just go change the shirt. And so it can only reflect what's in front of it.
Right. Well, you don't put makeup. I didn't notice you put your makeup on the mirror this morning.
We don't try to fix the outfit in the mirror. We just go change.
Yeah, but when we forget that our life experience is a mirror, we don't like what's going on. The natural tendency, our default tendency, is to try to deal with what's going on out there.
Right.
And so, but if we flip that, if we recognize that our real deeper spiritual work only happens when we use the mirror as a way of getting in touch with our own sense of separation. In other words, we could basically say that the mirror either mirrors our wholeness and worth, or it mirrors our living in the disconnect.
Yeah, exactly. And so if we use it as feedback, that's what I'm trying to do, is to use what's going on out there as feedback rather than condemning it or cursing the mirror. And that takes our power away. It really is a powerless place to be when you think that the outer world is causing all of my angst. When I really realize I have this inheritance, divine inheritance, where I can change what's within me, and with compassion, love, I can do the work here. That's not going to, magically change the entire world. It's going to change my experience of the world. And the more of us that do that, the more and more we come together and start to really live as the spiritual beings that we are, then we see this big change in the culture,
Right. I really like that slide that your favorite poet, that really describes that when we're looking at the world with different eyes, when we are basically showing up in a different way, the world looks different and becomes different for us. And so we can basically say that not only does the mirror our disconnect, but when we're showing up out of our own internal integrity, being who we've come here to be, then that's the reflection that reflects itself back to us also.
It does. And as we become conscious, that's the key. Self-awareness is the key. This book group that we're doing together, the Me and White Supremacy, the more I read and learn and journal, the more I'm starting to see things about that were unconscious before, that I didn't realize, I was putting out there. And as long as I'm doing that, I'm still putting that out there, And so to self-awareness is the key, making conscious what has previously been hidden.
All right. Well, that's a wrap up then.
That's a wrap.
All right. So we want to take a moment now, and I'm going to do the Dr. Jim ritual here in honor of him, and we can't wait for Lisa Zuber to come and do that.
Oh,
herself.
Ring the bell. Mm-hmm.
And so it's our offertory time, and we want to simply acknowledge and appreciate all of you who are involved in our automatic giving program, either through the Tithely app or doing their own bank bill pay or giving us your credit card to debit, or the religious writing of checks. That those all work automatically. That's great. But if you're not one of our automatic folks, then there's the little green button on our website. We invite you to click that, and you can set up your online giving that way too. But we're going to affirm together our offertory blessing, and let's do that right now together.
I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have,
and all that I give and receive. Read it, ladies. I give thanks
for the abundance that is mine to share.
All right. And we also, really want to appreciate all the ways in which we're supported in these times. And we had a lot of support this morning with respect to our outdoor service, and we look forward to nicer days and more of you coming to just sharing the experience. It was a delight to be able to see each other and to know we're okay, and to be able to be close enough to have a sense of community. So we really felt that today in a wonderful way.
Wonderful blessing. We look forward to more.
Yeah. So the next thing, of course, is going to be our Zoom meet after Sean and Tani leave us with another song. But once again, a reminder that we have some glitches with the link. So the link that's in the e-newsletter should come right back to where we are, and so just click on it or click on the old link. And if for some reason nothing works, let's just know that that's sometimes how technology is, and we'll get the new link out at our next Wednesday's e-news broadcast. So stay tuned for that. So let's just go out with Sean and Tani singing another song.
Now, God.
God, you are every mountain, and God, you are every ocean, God you are, every canyon, every inch of earth and sky, God you are, every morning, and God you are, every midnight, and God you are, every moment, every second of my life. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am, it's you. Everything above, everything below, everything I know is you. God, you are every sunrise, and God, you are every moon glow, and God you are, every star shine, every inch of earth and sky, God you are, every springtime, and God you are, every snowfall, and God you are, every season, every second of my life. Everything I see, everything I do, everything I am is you.